Hey guys, today we're here with Trent and Lauren Hill. They're good friends of mine. I've actually known Trent for a really long time, since he's a kid. But Trent and Lauren, thanks for being here tonight with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So Trent, we'll start with you because I've known you the longest. And I kind of got an idea how you grew up, just watching you with your mom and dad and in the church and stuff. But this kind of take us through, just what childhood, kind of how the home was and how you grew up as a kid, and just what home life was like.
Yeah, pretty much grew up in church before even I was born, in the womb. They had me in church, but great family. Growing up, we lived 30 yards from my grandparents, who were pastors. Really loving home. Always gave really good direction. My father, Monroe, one of the best men around, and so I'm super privileged to have him as my father figure. And then Sharon, my mom, they're phenomenal people, so I don't want to get too much into that. I'll start getting emotional about it, but they did a great job with everything that they needed to do for me, and giving me the tools necessary to be in the position that I am today. I'm obviously striving to be more and more, but I'm very blessed and very honored and grateful for the position that I'm in today. And I think that they gave me those tools to propel and to be at the place I'm at now. Had a sister too, still have a sister, Jacqueline. So that was our core family unit. And then went to a small school, a little 2A school, Parker's Chapel down in South Arkansas. And it was definitely more of like, it wasn't a Christian school, but it was very much Bible oriented. All the teachers were kind of, they were the ones that are going to church, that are involved, and maybe a little bit different than the dynamic of school situations today. But I was in a very, very good situation growing up, and like I said, I was in church even before I was born. I was in the womb in church, and I think that gave me a really good start, obviously, to take me in the direction that I need to go. But just the surrounding love and the care that was around me was very important.
What kind of kid were you, like in school? What kind of teenager? Did you pretty much straight laced? Did you kind of follow by the rules, or?
It depended on the day, honestly. I was a class clown, but I kind of picked and chose when I was going to do that. I knew how to play my cards on, okay, maybe today is not the best day to poke at Miss Harder,
Yeah.
or maybe today is not the day to make this joke. But other days I would definitely push the envelope and engage in that. But I was definitely a good kid. I didn't go to parties. I didn't engage in anything that was immoral, sinful, none of that stuff. In fact, that was, my testimony growing up, was that I was so blessed to not have those urges,
Yeah.
and those desires of the world. People would talk about going to this party and drinking and all that kind of stuff, and I was just like water off a duck's back.
Didn't have no desire for it.
No desire for it. It never stuck with me, and it never prompted me to want to do any of that. And I think that's because of how strong that upbringing was for me, and how profound the family unit, being engulfed in God and in Christianity and the Bible, and having the tools that equip you to be successful in those situations, it definitely translated down into me to where I was able to fend for myself, essentially, in those times where I did have to make a decision of going this way or that way.
Yeah, because you pretty much got godly people everywhere you look.
Everywhere.
Both your grandparents are pastors.
Yes.
And
Yes.
your uncle's a pastor.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're just lit up with church folk all around you.
All around, man. Eyeballs all over me.
Yeah.
You know, couldn't do anything in secrecy.
Yeah.
It probably one of those things that was annoying, but a saving grace at the same time. You know, you don't realize it then, but you have appreciation for it now. You know, looking back on those times, and so very grateful for my upbringing. If I could make a choice, I would choose that one again. You know, and that we don't have that choice. So I would choose that again.
That's true. Yeah, very fortunate to be born in that type of environment. It's awesome. So, Lauren, what about you?
Mine was a little different, but also similar. But I grew up with addiction on my dad's side, so that was kind of rough. And so my mom was just doing her best to keep the family afloat. I have 2 younger brothers, and then I have an older sister from my dad. So my dad my parents actually met in high school. We're from California. And so they met in high school, and then he went off to the Army, and she ironically came to John Brown University in Arkansas. And so they made the split, and then my dad was off in the Army, and he had gotten with my sister Lacey's mom, and they got pregnant with Lacey. And so when my mom ended up coming back around like 10 years later into my dad's life, they got married. And so she helped raise Lacey. So Lacey was 9 when I was born. So I had that older sister, but we were just so much of an age gap that I really didn't get a lot of time with her. So my brother Josh and I are 13 months apart, which now that I'm a mom, I just think that's crazy that my mom had us so close together. But so I have Josh, and then my youngest brother, his name is Jacob. And so that was kind of the unit that I had. When I look back on it, my mom really allowed me to live with friends because of the home life situation. And she felt like it was just more, she was protecting me by allowing me to live a different life with my friends, just so that I didn't have to experience the addiction component within my dad. So he started with like alcohol and then went into like meth for a little bit. So my dad is Danielle Hudson's sister. So that's our connection. Danielle and Donnie.
Oh, Danielle. So your dad and Danielle are brother and sister. Mm-hmm. Which Danielle and Donnie we had on the podcast.
Yeah, and when I watched that, I told Trent, I said, I'm really trying to watch this as if they're not my family, and I didn't know their story, even though I knew a little bit. I grew up with DC dying and just all of that. So anyways, my dad, was an addict for most of my life. I would say when I first met Trent is when he really had kind of found Jesus, and I was so nervous inviting Trent into my family unit because I was just like, he appears to be this certain way, and my family is not like that at all. And so I was very nervous. But at that time, things were really starting to change. Like I know my grandma's prayers were just all over us. And I also just really applaud my mom because she could have left so many times, and she didn't, and she stayed with him. And I just know that God has blessed me and my brothers and my sister because of her obedience to stay with him, even though she chose a low quality, I think, of life so that we would have a higher quality after that, because she was just like, I was not going to make you guys go through what I went through. And so I just really honor her choice and obedience to God and the covenant she made, even though, when you get married and you're up there and you're saying your vows, you have no idea what you're saying yes to. You're just like, yes, I say yes because today's the day. But you don't know, like, you have no, like, my mom was marrying a pilot. My dad was a pilot. And so growing up, I grew up with like airplanes and like riding in airplanes with him. And it was just very different after his dad died. That's the route he took, was substance abuse. So I say this joke. He grew up in the church and I grew up like going to church. And so although at the end of that journey, there's no difference because God can make anything happen, I do think it's interesting our perspectives on that, because I did grow up going to random churches, and so I was in it, but not like Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, not like that, not
Yeah.
like what he experienced. So I always kind of joke like, well, it really doesn't matter at the end of it. But it is interesting perspectives to see how we grew up and how it was different within the church component, because you just hear so much nowadays about the church and church hurt and all these things. And really it's relative to the person and what they've gone through. So yeah, we moved to Arkansas when I was in like third grade, because it was California and then Oklahoma for my dad to finish school to become to be a pilot. And then we moved from Tulsa to Farmington. And so I started at Farmington in third grade and graduated high school from there. And it's funny because I used to see Trent at basketball games. So I always knew him as Jacqueline's brother or Jonathan's cousin. Because also, side note, Jonathan was best friends with my brother Josh growing up. So I actually kind of grew up with Jonathan. I was exposed to living faith as a kid. So I think it's cool looking back, like God knew the whole time I was going to be at that church and that's where my family was going to be raised. But at that time I was just going because Jonathan was there. And that's when Papa was the preacher and stuff. So anyways, it's really cool to see how living faith has had an impact in my life since I was a kid. But I had no idea that I was going to be his wife and a part of the church family, you know?
Yeah. So how did y'all meet, Trent? How did you and Lauren meet?
I got a Facebook message at like 2 a.m.
It was a Facebook request.
That's what it was.
It was a friend request.
Yeah, request.
I requested him.
And
This is
of
turning
course,
romantic.
of course, it was like this profile picture of this beautiful girl. And I recognized her. I was like, I know this person. And plus it was like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's very intentional. you
Yeah,
know?
sure.
So I'm going to engage in that. I was 23, I think, so young buck, ripping and roaring. 2 o'clock's like early.
Sure.
So I had some time. So we almost instantly start messaging each other as soon as I accepted the friend request. And really, the rest is history, if you want to put it that way, because we picked up, we obviously synced up really well, enjoy each other's company and have a lot of similarities, and where one may have a hole, the other one can, fill that with whatever, the other person has personality wise. And so we're a super good team when it comes to creating oneness, which is what marriage is. And, so, I mean, that's how we met. And
So you were 23. How?
I was 20.
20. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you guys started messaging, start dating right away. Or did you guys go on a date right away? And
Yeah. Took her to Riverside Grill up in Bentonville, and way out of my price range.
We shared a meal.
I think I actually talked her into sharing something with me.
We did. We shared a meal. But that was okay.
Yeah.
I was just really.
We were just so goo eyes over each other, that didn't even really matter. And I had the old iPod back then, and plug it in and you can play it on your truck. And we were playing some old Chris Brown and just jiving on that and just having a good time. And that was our first date. And then from there, I think we probably saw each other the next probably consecutive month or so, who knows how much it was after that. But it was just, we hit it right off, and, it propelled and continually grew into, what it is now. We definitely had some times along the way, as any relationship does, I believe. But, it's a pretty cool little start.
yeah. So when you guys met, what was lifestyle like for y'all when you guys started dating?
So I was living with a group of guys pretty much on campus at the U of A. She knew, no, you didn't really know any of them. She ended up coming to know them through me.
I went to school with Zach.
That's what it was. Yeah.
One of his roommates.
One of my other ones. And so then I moved out of there, and then went to another place. And that was a time in my life that I started straying away from God. And it wasn't I'm not going to say it wasn't bad, because you stray away from God, that's bad. But I just started making little decisions, here and there that would create a little bit more separation, and then just a little bit more separation, and then just a little bit more separation. So that was a time in my life where I was more distant from God and being in the world more than what I should have been. And I mean, you can attest to, she was right there with me with all of that too. I'm not, telling on her at all by saying that, but we were more in the world at that point and trying to figure out life. I was at 23, I was still in college, working another job and going to school, and just trying to figure things out, and really had no sense of direction of where my end goal was. But, I saw her friend request come up. I was like, hey, he's good looking, so let's start talking to her. So.
Yeah. So I know a little bit of, it wasn't always jiving. Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh,
when you got, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, so life, because I know that y'all split up for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think, did you came to church with Trent, right, when y'all were dating? Mm-hmm. But y'all weren't, were y'all locked into living for the Lord? Was it,
No.
was it like,
No.
and were you guys, did you guys know pretty quickly that you were going to get married, or were you guys just enjoying the dating?
Just enjoying the dating.
So how long did the dating?
So really, when I look at the timeline, we dated officially for 2 years, and then we broke up for 2 years. So the 2 years we were together were like, it was pretty exclusive. People knew we were together. There were some moments on his end where he would be with someone else, but I would always take him back because I just loved him so much, and I was just like willing to put this behind. And I just thought, like, he's a really good person. I can tell he's like solid, but I just knew he was like doing stupid things. But also I was too, and I feel like the further after the 2 year breakup, I kind of call it like a sin cycle, because we would still like sleep together, but then go off and live our life with other people, and then like miss each other and come back to each other, but then be like so hurt by the choices we had just made with other people, and then comfort each other. And so that was like for 2 years. Yeah. We were just kind of sin cycling, like with other people and then also with each other. And so that's kind of what leads into our marriage, is because we ended up getting pregnant together in April of 2017. And I remember just telling him that I was pregnant, and I never even, you have sex and you kind of forget that is the intention that God created sex to be, but you're just having fun and you think you love each other. And, that's kind of what sexual immorality can kind of do, is confuse you and make you think that you love this person. And I do think that it was genuine, but we were not concerned about that component of sin. And so...
Well, wait a minute. So when you got pregnant, was that in the moment when you guys were kind of off and on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I also knew it was Trent's, because I just hadn't been with anybody in that cycle or whatever. And I just remember, so I was a bartender on Dixon at Shots, and I kind of like to say that he started playing the game of like doing stuff, but then I learned kind of how to do it better and more secretive. Because I was just like, oh, if you're going to play that game, we're really good at like just doing it in a way that's like really mischievous and just under the radar. Men can do that too, but I wanted to just kind of not hurt him, but still keep him in my life.
Was this while you're pregnant?
No,
or
no.
Before?
This
is all like leading up to this time.
Okay.
And so whenever I found I was pregnant, I was just like, Trent, I'm pregnant. And he was like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to step up. And I was like,
And I did.
What?
I mean, I dropped, and it goes back
Okay,
to...
well, hold on a second. Because I want to understand where y'all were at. Mm-hmm. Okay, because so you guys are off and on, and unintentionally you get pregnant. Mm-hmm. Were you guys together when you found out you were pregnant, or had you guys split up?
Yeah, we were like just in communication.
Yeah, we were trying,
just kind of talking.
It was circling back.
Yeah, we were kind of on the round
because that's
back.
kind of what we would do. We would get together, and then a couple weeks goes by, and then we move on, and then involve other people, and then that's an extended period of time, and then we somehow always would circle back to one another.
So when she called you and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant," at that moment you weren't thinking, "This is a girl I'm going to marry." You guys didn't know. I mean, it was pretty toxic. Sounds like, or it could be.
So
it was toxic.
Truthfully, where I'm going to go with this is it all goes back to where my roots are, and my roots are firmly planted in Christ.
Sure.
Even though I was making bad decisions and I knew that I was living wrong, I knew where my roots were, and I knew that was all right. This is. I look at it and I see that God said you weren't going to make this decision for yourself. So I'm going to make it for you. And good things can come out of bad situations and bad incidents. And what the devil means for bad, God can turn to good. He means for good. And that's exactly how I'm always going to paint our picture, is that we were, on the dark side with things. But when that was brought to my table, I knew what I had to do. And I called the other girl and I said, "This is what it is. She will be my wife. I will be the father of that child. I will be her husband. And our communication stops now." And it did. And that was how it ended. She didn't know that, I think, until like a year ago, 2 years ago?
Well, yeah, I ended up,
I don't know.
It was funny, you were at the gym the day that I was with her, but this is another story. But I just had so much resentment towards her and a lot of hurt and jealousy and, all that stuff before the marriage. And for years into our marriage, I was just so distorted about her. Like I was still obsessed.
Was this girl like a friend, one of your friends?
She wasn't really one of my friends, but she did, when I met her with him, she definitely gave me the impression that we could be friends, but I didn't know that she liked him. So, but I really just had a lot of resentment and bitterness in my heart after we got married towards her. And I could just feel God asking me, just let it go, give it to me, And so I did, and I ended up reaching out to her, and we made, we were good. And then I ended up just asking her if she wanted to come to the gym with me so that I could kind of repair that environment for my mind, because that at Planet Fitness, I started to kind of get anxiety going there even after we got married, because I was still stuck. Even though we got married and all of that was behind us, I still had a lot of work to do internally. And so anyways, I share that because I ended up fully forgiving her. I mean, it was so much freedom lifted off my chest to just not feel anxiety towards this person, but also that she was also in this, and I never considered her feelings and how that could have affected her. It was all about me and this baby. And so I can't remember what we were just talking about, but basically, I don't know what I'm circling back to.
Yeah. So you, Trent, you told her that, "Hey, I'm going to get with her."
So the reason why I said that is because when I was at the gym with this girl, she said, "Hey, I just want," and this was 2 years ago, pretty fresh. She said, "I just wanted to let you know, did Trent ever tell you what he said to me?" And I was like, "No, we never talked about it." And she said, "Well, I just want to let you know what he said." And so she shared that with me. And that was the first time I'd heard it, of what the actual breakup sounded like. And it was just the most honorable thing I could have, to know 6 or 7 years later that he had said that 7 years ago, gave me it was God just gave me this little nugget of yeah, you guys did make the right choice. We chose to get married because we wanted to honor the choice we made by having sex before marriage. The week of our wedding, Monday, we got married on a Friday. Monday, we lost the baby. And we
could have
just called it off.
We could have called the wedding.
We
Did
found
y'all
out.
talk about that?
No, we just didn't
Nope.
even.
You just so when you had the miscarriage, you guys just said, "Hey, we're just going to go ahead and."
We just pressed on because Mama
But
Curtis.
had y'all grown closer together in the time when she was pregnant?
It was like 6 weeks of a 6-week
6
engagement.
weeks.
Were y'all locked in and just trying to make things work and trying to
Definitely.
figure each other out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we left all of that world behind, and
So you lose the baby, but you decide, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get married.
Mm-hmm.
In that steps, did you go, okay, we got to lock down, start serving God and doing things right, or were you guys just still kind of in the world and just like,
Still kind of in the world at that point, and just trying to figure things out with the new. Well, of course, that was gone at that point. The moving on to the next chapter of being parents.
I just had this thought because I panicked. I remember like thinking I'm getting married, like freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing is because I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. And I wasn't really sure I even wanted to, but it was like people had already spent money and it was everybody, it was planned, and I couldn't just bail off the ship, you know what I mean? Right. But I kind of wanted to, but, I'm curious because you didn't, but it made me, I'm like, okay, God's got to help me figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm wondering because you grew up in such a great environment,
mm-hmm.
Did you think like, oh, I got this figured out. I know how this works. I've seen it. I know how to, I'm surprised that with her getting pregnant, because of how you grew up and how you knew,
mm-hmm.
that you didn't go, hey, I got to lock down. We got to start serving the Lord. I got to go to church. I got to be a godly husband, a godly father. But you didn't do that.
Mm-mm.
Not right away.
Not right away.
Did you think you just had it figured out? Like you just would?
Yeah, I guess you could say that for lack of better words. It was just, I didn't get in my head too much about it. I kind of just did the things necessary to move on and keep pressing into life, because that was just the scenario that we were in and the dynamic of how we were living life. And I just continued on with those same behaviors. So no, I did not, make that immediate, like, we got to lock this down. We got to, none of that was really that prevalent in my mind. And I think it was because that was at that time at the tail end of me living the lifestyle that I had been living. So I was desensitized. There's a part of what our main topic is about that. But I think that living in the world the way that I was had desensitized me to, I got to get myself right. I got to make sure that I'm, in line with the Word of God, and I'm prepared to be a good husband and a good father. There's never been a doubt in my mind that I would be those things, because I've always wanted to be a husband and a father. That's not ever been like, I want to be that instead of a doctor or a firefighter or a pilot or whatever. But I always knew I wanted that. Yeah. I wanted to be a father and I wanted to be a husband. And this was my time to do that. And I was always enthralled by her. It was just clearing my mind and getting the full awareness that she's mine, not this other distraction that I had in life. So eventually I came to that point, but no, not immediately.
Let's what was year one of marriage like?
What was what?
Year one of marriage.
So we went back to my apartment.
Yeah, we moved into his apartment, and it was a lot of undoing things.
We sold that couch instantly.
Yeah, I said, you got to get rid of that couch. I don't know who's been on that, but it's gone. I did sell it real quickly. I tried to focus on him, and I think I was pressing into God, because I was just like, I just lost a baby. Like, for me, it was really sad. And I hope this doesn't ever come across as insensitive, but I had just had so much peace in my heart. I was like, okay, God, if this is your will for us, and we are going to honor you by making this decision. And I just feel like when we said yes, God just, it wasn't immediate maybe, but he just really started working on us immediately. Because marriage is like saying yes to God. Like, I don't know if people realize that, like, marriage is like his design. And so when you say yes, whether you believe in him or not, he's working, he's doing things, you know. And so we were going to church, you know. His parents were really the ones who encouraged us to get married. They were like, when we told them we were pregnant, you know, Sharon was like, you need to get, and I was like afraid because I had just had a lot of hurt from this person. And I was like, there's no way I would ever trust this guy. I would never trust him. But I knew if God was working something, that I had just had to trust him. So that's what we started doing. So the first year looked like a lot of undoing things and a lot of healing and building trust and saying, I know that this is how you used to be, but I'm going to trust that you're not making those decisions. I also stopped bartending, which was helpful because, you know, that environment is just kind of toxic, especially when you're married. So I got out of that. And this kind of brings into this is during that first year, I was engaging in pornography. And I just remember.
Now, was this just in that first year, or had you been?
Yeah, it actually started like a little bit before marriage. And it actually had a lot to do with my curiosity with maybe I didn't know if he was watching porn or not. Because he had cheated on me, I was so hurt and broken and in so much pain. And I don't know the psychology component of this, but really insecure. So like, you know, why am I not good enough? Why is she, you know, she was into bodybuilding. So I was like fixated on health and fitness and looking like her. It was like I would have done anything to look like this girl. Because in my mind, you know, you think that's going to fix the brokenness between us.
That if you can look like her, then he'll want you.
Yeah, absolutely. So there, during those first couple years before marriage, when all of that was going on between us, I think I was curious, and I have never been into porn. Like, even the boyfriend I had before him, like, it was never ever anything that I was engaged in or interested in. But I thought that if I looked into that world, that I might get to see a little bit about what Trent sees. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But in my mind, I just thought I was just curious, like, what does that world look like? Is that what she looks like? You know, is that like the world that he's living in? So it was really out of curiosity. And then over time, it sucks you into this. And even as a woman, like when I had this testimony, I was like, it's just interesting because, yeah, in 2025, you're going to hear more women talking about it, but it is more of a male thing. That's what it's like, kind of like, because so as a kid, I grew up in the 90s. Porn was in a magazine, right? So you like open it and like turn it and it's like a whole body. And so when I look back at my childhood, I can kind of see the seed that I think was planted in my confidence level, because I saw these women, their bodies, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm supposed to look like. So you seen
porn magazines when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was like, it was still when I was in Oklahoma, so it was like before third grade, and it was just, me and my friend came across them in her dad's desk. And I mean, it wasn't like, as a kid, you can't process that. You're just kind of like, there's naked women on these pictures, but I never really thought about it. But, you know, as I went through the healing process and all of that, when I was processing back, I was like, wow, actually, because porn, there's some specific terms that I feel like are really important, and it's the word fantasy. So when you're engaging in that, and then the word pacify. Those are going to be some like really common terms used with pornography, because there's a reason why you're going to it.
You know, it's funny that you said fantasy, because I never really had a problem with porn that I felt, because I always wanted the real thing.
Yeah.
I really wasn't interested in watching it.
Yeah.
You know, my buddies would watch it stuff and I'd be like, dude, go get the real thing.
Right.
You know, like, but what I did have a problem, especially when me and Jennifer first got married, was looking at the real thing somewhere else. Like seeing a girl and Jennifer holding my hand and me breaking my neck.
Yeah.
And just I almost, had to train myself to be like, that's everything outside of my wife is fantasy. Mm-hmm. Like, my wife is my real world.
Yeah.
She is the one that God has given me and the only one that I'm to be intimate with. All these other girls are fantasy, and it's like a cartoon. Mm-hmm. It's like, it really helped me to break it. I'm better, I guess. I don't know if I'm 100% of not noticing a pretty girl or whatever, but it would consume me. Mm-hmm. And but that was something God put in my heart of just like, that's fantasy, Dylan. Mm-hmm. That's not your life. That's not the woman I gave you. None of those girls are not interested in you. They're just passing by. But yeah, that was something that I tell myself is like, that's fantasy. Mm-hmm. I got to focus on what real life, what my real world is, which is my wife and my kids. Yeah. That's cool that you use that same word. So you had, like, year one, when you guys are married, were you deep into porn? Is this like what? I don't feel like I've ever been deep addicted to porn. I've watched porn before and had a struggle with, like looking at images and being like, oh my goodness, why'd I look at that? Yeah. But I've never really been deep into it to where I felt like it was an addiction, like I just had to have it or was watching it all the time. So when you're deep into that addiction of porn, I mean, in year one, were you deep into it? Like,
I mean, I at the time I didn't know why I was so deep into it, but last year is when the realization of like, because porn has been out of my life specifically after I had Lola. Leading up to that, I had experienced the altar at church and, really wanted it gone, but I didn't know why I was going to it.
Well, so how often, what is that?
So it was dependent on, maybe once a week, maybe a couple times a week. And it really, for me, because our stories are so different and very much because of how God made a woman and how God made a man. I believe God made women. We are very emotionally and mentally stimulated. Mm. And so, and men are very physical and visual. And so for men, I think for porn, they're watching something. But for women, or for me specifically, it was very connected to psychological insecurity. So at the time I didn't know this. God kind of revealed this to me later. But the function of porn for me was insecurity. And basically, when I was feeling insecure is when I would go to it. And what happened is... I would basically pick women that I felt like I looked better than and compare myself.
Yeah, because I was asking how, if you got insecurity, how in the world is porn?
No, it's negative.
But that makes sense.
Yes.
You would try to find women, you'd be like, I look better
than her. And so it was very distorted. I mean, it was very dark.
Yeah, it makes sense though.
Yeah, I was like, oh, but most of the time I'm not looking at women I think I look better than. Most of the time I'm viewing women that I'm extremely intimidated by. All these silly terms because, saying it out loud, it sounds like so silly and stupid. But the reality is that I used it to combat my insecurity. But most of the time it didn't make me feel better. It's just all that I knew to do because it's kind of like a slots machine. If you want to look at it, it's called intermittent reinforcement. So when you're going to a slots machine, sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. But most of the time you don't get it. But that's what's keeping you hooked. Mm-hmm. So for me, porn was like, oh, sometimes I'm getting the reinforcement of I feel better about myself, like relief. But most of the time I'm actually engaging in something that's disconnecting me from myself. So the more I did it, I never really got deep into it. It was pretty much the same stuff that I was watching. If that makes sense, but I genuinely would feel better about myself, but most of the time feel worse about myself. So it really was distorting my view about the way I viewed myself, which affected our marriage because I was hiding from him. But I just didn't know that that's what was going on.
Did it make you uncomfortable, to be intimate with your husband?
Yeah, it was because I was detaching from myself. Yeah. So it's how can I be intimate with my husband and do all these things that I think are supposed to be within marriage when I am so uncomfortable. And the thing about me is that I have this outward appearance. And so also growing up, I grew up poor and, all this stuff. But I learned that my personality got me kind of far, and my like physical appearance kind of got me far, if that makes sense. And so for this to be failing me, was like, why is this not working? Like, and I always had heard like, Jesus is center, and, to have that first between our marriage, but it wasn't clicking. And I really just didn't feel conviction about it. I was just extremely in a lot of pain. And so that was like the function was like, oh, you're comparing yourself to these women. Also, I think for women now, and I haven't really talked to a lot, but just to know that it's increasing at an exponential rate right now for women. And I didn't really know that. And I want to say I have a hypothesis, and it's that because it's like, we heard this thing the day in the 80s and 90s, you had to like work to get it.
Yeah.
Now you have to work not to get it.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
That's very true.
It's like skin is like, we're designed to want that. Like that is, and so, but it's channeled within a marriage. That's how God made intimacy and sex so powerful. I mean, I think about one time Uncle Steve said this phrase, and I'll just never forget it. And he said, sex was made pleasurable because God wanted it to be. If he wanted it to not be that, we could just get pregnant by putting our hand on a hot stove. We would still do it because we want a child that bad. But would we do it all the time? Probably not. So the fact that it's for our pleasure, God did that for us. Yeah. And so when you're engaging in porn, all that's doing is desensitizing you, specifically for a man. But for me and for women, we're just sitting there comparing ourselves, which is completely taking the joy away from us,
Yeah. So Trent, I guess y'all watch porn together then? Mm-mm. So you didn't know she had an addiction to porn? Really?
Nope.
No, but the Holy Spirit spoke to me, and I was on my way home. So this is before we hit 1 year.
Well, hold on a second. Did you have an addiction to porn? Mm-hmm. And she didn't know? Mm-hmm. So you guys both had an addiction to porn and didn't know? Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, so go ahead.
So I knew it was like not right. The more we went to church, the more I could feel the Holy Spirit, and the more I was like, I remember specifically like before we got married, I remember talking to you at Planet Fitness, and I'll never forget the timing of it because we were not married and nothing had happened yet. But I remember you sharing with me, it'll never leave me. You were just like, it's so important to find women in your life that are seasons ahead of you to press into so that they can help you, and then vice versa. Like you need to find women that are in seasons, not behind you, but that haven't hit your season so you can pour back into them. Yeah. And so I remember reaching out. Jennifer like really just took me under her wing, especially after we got married. And I remember asking her about what I was feeling in the church. Like the best way I could explain it was like, if you've seen Shrek, there's this scene in Shrek where Fiona is singing to this little bluebird, and she's like, ha ha ha, and then he like repeats her, and they get so high, her voice gets so high, the bird like pops. Well, that was the best way I could explain when I was sitting in church and an altar call was made, and I was just sitting there, my heart was like responding, like my spirit was responding, but I didn't, because I married into the church family, there was no way, not that they knew why I was going up there, but there was no way I was going to go up there. But it was so obvious. I was like,
why is that? You're worried what they would portray why you were going up there?
Yeah, because at the time I just didn't understand the altar.
Yeah,
and
I get that though.
Yeah.
I get the weight, and Trent probably understands this more than most, but there is a underline of, if you grew up in the church, if you're in the ministry, you don't tell people your problem.
Right? Yeah,
you don't go up to the altar because people might not follow you, or they might lose strength from you. They might feel like you're not worthy, and it's almost like shameful.
Shame.
But it's so opposite, man. Of what Satan works everywhere. He even works in the church.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if he can get us to where it's so, I want people to really let this settle in, because this happens a lot in the church. to where God convicts us and God's really trying to mold and shape us. You know, he says that we're the clay, and so he's trying to mold and shape us. And a lot of times it's through the conviction of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And God is drawing us to the altar for us to lay down that sin, to repent from it and turn. And we're so worried about what people might view us, and they might not think highly of us if they truly find out what we're struggling with, and that's a heavy weight.
It's very heavy.
You know, and man, when you can figure out that it doesn't matter,
No.
and everybody is a screw up, and they're not, without God, you're just not going to get it. And but so you've had that conviction, and obviously you eventually get past that.
Well, I kind of got over it at the church because I wasn't really feeling the deliverance yet. And so I did seek out Cindy Reed in the church because she had spoken over me at the altar. So I've created this like safe space with her, and Jennifer too. But essentially what led me to sharing with him the secret was I was on my way home from work, and I was just talking to God, and I was like, God, I don't want a secret. Like, I watched my parents have a secret marriage, or like secrets in their marriage. And I so desire a marriage that is open and vulnerable. And so God knows that. He knows our hearts. And so I said, I just don't know how to tell him. Like, how do you say that? Like, especially because I'm the woman. Yeah. Like, it's normally the man sharing that or whatever. And, on the radio, this is just so crazy because the Holy Spirit spoke immediately. It's like sometimes God speaks immediately and sometimes he doesn't. But for this moment, it was like immediate. And on the radio, there was a sex therapist talking on the Christian radio show. And so I was all interested. I don't even know what a sex therapist is, but she was talking about how very much about what was going on in my heart. She was like, you have to be open and honest with your partner. That's what, a good marriage does is honesty. And so she brought up a verse, and I don't even remember what the Bible verse was. So I just said to myself, okay, when I get home tonight, I'm going to open up the Bible. And then when I did it, and I got home and I opened up the Bible, I totally blanked on what I was going to do. He's like, what are you reading? And I was just like, just pretending. And then I just looked over at him, and I said, okay, Trent, I think I'm addicted to porn. And he just looked at me, and it was very, like quiet. And unfortunately,
what was this in year one? Or
right before one. So in my head, I'm like, we're about to hit 1 year marriage, and I want this to be in the open before we even like get to 1 year, you know? So unfortunately that night didn't go very good.
So I want to hear that. What was your response?
Not good. And it was probably more so because I knew within myself, I was also doing it. And then she had the courage to bring that
before
I did. And as a man, that's like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So what do? I act out. And it was so much that we got the cops called on us.
The police were called on. We lived in an apartment, we were not being physical, but I'm sure
not like that. But like
yelling and
a lot of yelling,
slamming doors and stuff. And so we had the sweetest lady that lived beside us.
She's like scared for us.
And she was probably just like, I just want to make sure they're okay. So she told us later, she's like, that was me that called the cops. I just want to make sure that y'all were okay. So it didn't go well. And after that,
so what did, and this is just because I want to know, like, what are some of the things? Because I'm sure you lashed out. Like, what were the complaints? Like, oh, you're not satisfied with me? Was it more like you were starting playing the victim?
No, I didn't play the victim. I didn't look into it as far as like that perspective goes. I think it was more so the part that I highlighted was that I knew deep down that was something that I also struggled with, but I didn't have the ability to present it. And she did, and I'm someone.
But what was the complaint in that fight? What was the complaint? Because I'm thinking, I'm thinking, if I was in that shoe, if Jennifer said, "Hey," I'd be floored, just because you're the woman.
Yeah.
Like, what? But I would think that sometimes that would be like, oh man, I'm addicted too, or I got a struggle too. But
I had too much pride.
Yeah.
Way too much pride. And it even amplified then because of that moment.
Well, and it wasn't until the end of the fight. So the police came. They were so kind. And I'm so grateful for those men because they, basically they split us up and encouraged us not to be together that night. I'm like, well, we're going to be back together. But I do appreciate you checking on my safety. It wasn't like that. And then it was kind of like God put them there because as soon as they left, everything had settled, except I remember looking at him and I said, okay, I get it, but you can't do this to me. I said, are you watching porn? Because it's fine if you are, but don't treat me like this if you are as well. And if you are, let's just come.
Did you guys have suspicion that you? No. Okay.
No.
So you just asked the question.
At the very
end.
end.
Maybe he's watching it.
Yeah. I was just like, why would he just act like that? Like, I thought, and again.
Well, and she was also, to kind of put a backstory to her making the decision to tell me, she was pursuing God more than I was.
Yes.
Within our marriage. She was much more like in the Bible, making sure that she's reading her verses and she's really planted and wanting to go to church and try to plug herself in. And I was like, opposite.
So it's bringing a lot of conviction in the house.
Yes.
It was. Because that's when I also had been like wanting to serve in the church. And I remember telling him and he was like, no, at the time, no, you're not going to do that. And I was just like, I'm so confused. Like, I thought this is the route.
And I told her no. Because,
when she asked you?
Yeah. And I said no because at the time I didn't want to be involved in anything. And I was like...
Oh, when you told her no about
volunteering in the church and being involved, I said, because I don't want to do anything. And then if you go do something and then I'm not, how does that make me
look bad? Yeah.
You know?
Well, I want to know what you said when she's flat out asked you, are you watching porn?
I think I said
yes.
yeah. I told her yes then.
He did. He said yes. And then I just looked at him, but
you just throwing such a big fit, got the cops called.
Yeah.
All for her to ask you and be like, yeah, I'm like
yeah, we were just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But
that's what pride will do to you, man. It'll do that to you.
But I am impressed that you, because my pride probably would have been so bad that
I just keep denying it.
Just keep carrying it on, Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it because although I wanted it to be all out in the open, because of the response, I didn't feel safe like coming to him, moving
because
forward.
He's struggling with it.
Yeah. And I didn't know how deep it was. I just knew like, I got to focus on myself. I can feel the conviction. I can feel the Holy Spirit. I know God's doing something. And I can't do anything about him. I can only focus on me. So that's when I started reaching out to like women that I trusted. So, I always encourage whoever's listening, like tell your partner first. Like that's your helpmate. Those are your people. But if for whatever reason it doesn't work out like that, seek someone else because you have to have support. You have to have, that accountability with somebody.
Yeah.
And so I had Jennifer and mainly Cindy Reed was my main person, and I would meet with her at a coffee shop. And I was still struggling with it, but I knew I was confessing, and I knew it was gonna get better. It didn't for like three more years. So we went on 3 more years.
So after you both find out that you got a problem with porn, did it make it easier?
From my perspective, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. How would it not? Because you're like,
because
now she can't say nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I was thinking, man, maybe that'd be amazing if they go, okay, well, we're just going to quit. But that would almost like open both doors.
And that's what it did. It opened Pandora's box.
Because then you're like, well, if she catches me, she can't.
She can't say anything to me. She's doing it too.
Wow.
And so she was actually the first one to bring it to the table. So seemingly in my head, she had more of a problem than I did, And so I was.
So that probably really amped it up. I'm guessing.
Not as far as like my act of engaging in it, but as far as my comfortability with it, yes, absolutely.
And probably took some of the conviction off.
It did.
Because part of the conviction, you're worried about God, but once you got past that, then you're like, well, I hope my wife don't find out.
Right. Which is so funny. It should be the opposite.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, well, that's what gets us in trouble, know, because we worry more about man than God who holds our soul.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was that was part of like my realization with finally being done with it, was that I'm looking at this kind of in the wrong way. You know, God is the ultimate, you know, I have to please him.
Yeah. So who broke the addiction first? Like,
It was me first, and it's because after the altars and all, I think God, so he just took it away. Like, I had Lola, I gave birth to my first baby, and I believe God rerouted my brain because 6 or 8 weeks had went by, and now I'm in the deep of postpartum. So you're already insecure, you're already like there. And I thought about it, and I was like, wow, you got to, like, it happened, you know? The unfortunate part is that porn was out of my life, but I was still hiding. I was still insecure because realization didn't happen until last April. So last April is our pivotal point of when I believe I met Jesus is really what it was. So I knew God, right? I had experienced the Holy Spirit in church, but there was that third missing piece, and it was Jesus. And I remember just asking in church and stuff, and like asking God, like, I want to know Jesus. Like, there's these 3 parts to this union. I want to know who he is, because it sounds like he's my guy, you know? Mm-hmm. And so there's this song that we played at church, and it's called Champion. And when I first heard it, I was like, so porn had already been out of my life 4.5 years ago, but the insecurity part was still like lingering, and I just didn't realize that was like the driving component. And when I heard this song Champion, he's my champion. Like, that's up until this point. I was like, Trent he's my guy. Like, he's my guy. But when I heard this song, I was like, I think Jesus is supposed to be my champion. He is supposed to be the one that will never, ever hurt me. He will never fail me. He intercedes for me, and he died for me. You know, it's like it became very real. And so in the song Champion, it says, you are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. I am seated in heavenly places. And it was like my spirit started to like receive this fully. And we had a pivotal moment last April where he went golfing, and I was just feeling really, really insecure. And I just thought, when he comes back, I want to go through his phone. And I just advise very much against doing that, because it's like a lack of trust, right? But I guess I didn't realize there was still missing pieces there. So I went through his phone, and it's not that I found porn, but the algorithm, it doesn't lie. I'll just put it that way. And I didn't really care for what I saw. And it wasn't super like porn, but it was some images that I just was very uncomfortable with. And so I kind of called him out, and it started out not great. But at the end of it, after a day had went by, he pretty much just came to me and said, look, I don't want that, but you do not give me what I need. And that was like one of the hardest things, because
what was that? I mean, what? So we
just like hiding from him.
Like you were uncomfortable.
I was still uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
like you didn't feel like she even wanted you. I mean, or was that what
it literally covering herself,
just hiding
from
like
me
in intimacy.
So I couldn't see what I want to visually see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just like...
She just didn't feel comfortable with herself.
Right. But that was a me problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with like a lack of confidence, and also just assurance in who I am and where my confidence comes from.
Before that, though, were you reassuring her? Like,
through
acts and through just our marriage and...
I think he was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think he was doing a really good job. Now, when I bring up this specific point, I don't ever want anybody to hear this or you to think that I justify him doing that. But I also want to make it very known that I don't know what a guy is supposed to do. I don't think that's the route, maybe. But I think I heard the guy yesterday, this pastor said well, when your husband says he's thirsty and you're like, not right, and you're like, that's not
water right now.
Yeah, I don't have water right now. So that was very much against my values, but I didn't realize that that's how I was living. So I always wanted to please him and bring God honor and the dynamic of a husband and a wife and all of that stuff. I always wanted that, but I didn't realize how insecure I was. I just didn't realize, because the very thing I was afraid of, which was that he was watching porn, was the very thing I was enabling because of my fear and because of, I think, kind of and whenever it clicked in my head, I felt like, oh my gosh, like I've been allowing the enemy to do the very thing inside of me that that I'm afraid of, but I'm like allowing it because I just don't realize my value and my worth. And so when I heard that song, the day after our fight last April, I really feel like that was the first time I experienced Jesus. It was in my car. I was on my way to work out at Planet, but I was so overwhelmed with his presence. And it was like, oh, okay. Like if Trent has a porn problem, it has nothing to do with me. Like this whole time I'm thinking like he's got a addiction to porn, or I didn't even know for sure, right? Because I wasn't ever going to open that door again. But I was just like, oh, okay. Like in my head, like, oh yeah, if he has a problem, it's not because of me. It's not because of anything I'm doing. That's between him and God. Just like it was between like me and God. And so it was the first time I was like, oh, Jesus, okay, this is who you are. Like, I am seated with you. I am like highly valued, and I'm sitting up there right there with you. And it became like this full circle moment in my mind and in my heart, all connected. And I was just like, whoa, like I don't have to be fearful of this, because this is not who God has called me to be. He has called me to be confident in who he has made me to be, and that I am his. And I am, again, in these lyrics were just like covering me. I was like, I am seated in heavenly places. Like giants fall when you stand undefeated. Like these giants that I had with my insecure were just like dropping, like just like completely like full freedom. And I was just like, wow, like that is like what real freedom feels like. Like I hear about it with addiction and stuff, and I mean, I go so far to say I was addicted to it because I tried to stop and I couldn't stop. So that's when I think when it clicked in my head and in my heart, I think God aligned us, because I could now offer what I feel like he needed. And then he could also offer me safety in that I could trust that he wasn't engaging in that. And also it was just like this full on redemption. Like God just took it and was like, I know you're in the beginning to the end. So like he already knew that was going to happen, but the confidence that I gained from that moment on was just unexplainable. And like where I feel like we have a pivotal turning point in our marriage, and also just within our walk with God, because that's when I also noticed his behavior was very different in the way he was. We were just different, and it was the best thing. And I think the thing about sexual immorality, sin, is that we were talking, and all sin is sin, right? All sin is equal, but sexual immorality, that sin is very heavy. It's I believe all sin is heavy, but I think in specific to sex,
well, it's a covenant. It's a sin of a covenant, because sex is a blood covenant.
Yeah.
And that's the reason that sin and sex and porn and all that is so detrimental, because it cuts right through a covenant
immediately.
And and it just rips you apart. But I think, I don't know if women realize this, and I had this conversation with Jennifer, because, and Trent, you can speak up if you feel the same way, but for me, I just want my wife, right? I'm very happy with my wife. I tell her my wife looks great. I'm attracted to my wife. God has taught me how to see her for how she is on the inside. It's not just based on outward. Right. I love her, more and more attracted to her, because God's taught me how to see the value who she is on the inside. Mm-hmm. But I tell her I'm still a bull.
Right.
We're
still flesh.
And I'm still a bull in a china closet, or around china. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm not supposed to touch the china, right? But it doesn't change the fact that I'm a bull. And I told her, like, she has the ability to calm me down, right? Like my desire is for her, but that desire can quickly start looking to touch other things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that when I explained that to her, it's like, I want to keep my desire for you. And, and because women, men and women don't think the same, but her desire is for me to, have, give her confirmation and help her and be what, different things. It's not just, she's not desiring sex all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sex is us guys, we, desire for the intimacy, and the women are more for us just being around, telling, affirming mm-hmm. that we love them and that we're attracted to them mm-hmm. and all that. And so it has to go both ways. Mm-hmm. Otherwise there's trouble.
Right.
Yeah. Because if we don't affirm, that we're attracted to our women, that we love them, that we're satisfied how we are, because the world is really harsh on women.
Yeah.
Right. You either wear too much makeup or not enough makeup. Your hair is too short or it's not long enough, or it's not the right color, or you're too skinny, or you're too big, or it just never stops.
Right.
It's just, the world's never going to be satisfied.
No.
Mm-mm.
But you're not for the world.
Right.
That's right.
You're for Him.
That's right.
And you're for God. But we have to reaffirm, and thank God that He teaches us how to do that when we lay aside all those weights. If we keep the weights in there, even though we might want to, it's just impossible. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you keep porn in your life, in your marriage, it's that true intimacy and just desiring each other and feeling comfortable with each other, it's just not going to happen, because that's a weight that will destroy the marriage. But you get rid of that, and God starts showing you, and a desire.
Yeah.
Like for me and Jennifer, I got to a point to where I was not attracted to her. It's crazy to even say that. And I know it sounds terrible, but it's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To where I did not desire her. I did not want her. And, and if you stay at that, what do you do? And a lot of people, they don't realize that they can get past that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that God can start that fire to where you desire your spouse, and to where you don't want anybody else. Mm-hmm. To where you're like, there's no way.
It's like first date again.
Yeah. It's amazing, mm-hmm. But when I was in that moment of not attracted, I was like, this is going to be always miserable. Like you cannot see any light. Mm-hmm. You're just like, this sucks. How am I, you start looking for other things and ways out. But when you stick it out and you let God move right in the middle of that, like you said, marriage can be amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's the most beautiful.
It can be great, and to where you were desiring, to where like now I catch myself on a daily basis thinking about my wife.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get home, and I'm excited to be with her and just to hang out. So
we send each other messages all the time. It just in the middle of the workday, is this really our life? Do we really get to do this with these two beautiful babies and the third one on the way? Do we really have this awesome of a marriage? Like all those things, it's like, yes, because we gave it to God. Yeah. Because through our unholy acts that God brought holiness out of, He's honoring our decision to continue to serve Him by giving us this beautiful life. And we reaffirm each other all the time with those messages.
Yeah, he's the best, like, people I don't even know. Just, he is a very rare person as far as like being involved. His hobby is his children. Like people want to, like, he's got golf kind of and maybe bodybuilding, but it's his family. Like you want to know what he wants to do on the weekends. He wants to be with us. And so many of the people that I know is, and not that that's a bad thing or anything, if that's not your thing, but it's such a gift for me because it's a big part of us. But I wanted to kind of going back to the porn thing. I just don't think people realize the numbness that it can create within whether if you're not married, what it's doing to you, and then also when you are married, what it's doing to the marriage. And we're talking about how some sin is a little bit louder and you can kind of see it, but this one is very quiet. It's a very silent internal battle, and the consequences are extreme because of the condemnation that you can have, like with Satan, that what he can kind of do with that, the shame and the guilt, and obviously all sin comes with that, but with porn and having sex before marriage and all that stuff, it just numbs you and takes away from what could be so special. And so there's a lot of stats. I'm not really like a stat person, but I didn't know that 88% of pornography has violence towards women. I had no idea, because that's not what I was into. Like, that's not what I was watching. So I'm not thinking about violence towards women. But to hear that was so alarming. And then also that...
Because it's degrading. The whole essence of porn is degrading.
Yeah.
It's not lifting up women. It's not honoring women. It's not honoring the covenant that God... it's everything opposite.
It's
the ugly... What God was meant to be holy and pure and honorable, and awesome.
Oh yeah, it doesn't show enough of a woman. It shows too little. What pornography does, it shows too little of a woman.
Because you're watching, and this woman or man, whatever, they have like hopes and dreams and a spirit, and they're into this whatever for whatever reason. And I also heard one time that you could be like engaging in that and they might be dead. And when I heard that, I was so disturbed.
Because it kills.
It kills people.
Literally kills people.
And you're sitting there
it's such a... The word desensitization, I think we've said it a few times now, but it is such a desensitizing act.
Yeah.
And it becomes like basically just a ninja that can creep up on you and cut you up before you even know what's going on. There's actually a cool story that we heard recently, and it's about ancient wolves and Eskimo tribes. And to keep these wolves from infiltrating their living quarters and all that, they would take knives and they would go dip them in blood, and they would go let it freeze, and then take it again, dip it in blood, let it freeze. Do it a third time, let it freeze. Then they'd go set it out where they thought the wolves were going to be and set handle down, and so it's sticking up, and that blood is frozen on a knife that they had sharpened up, razor sharp before, as sharp as you can get it. And what those wolves would do, they would come in and they would smell that blood, and they would start licking that knife, and that layer of blood would slowly begin to dissipate. But they're so ravenous for that blood, and they just keep licking it and licking it. Eventually, they start to cut through the blood, or get through the layers of blood, get to that knife, and they start cutting themselves up.
Their tongue is numb.
Their tongue is now numb from the licking of that ice, that blood that had been frozen. And so they can no longer feel what's going on. Well, they're just ravenous, and they've got this blood happening, and now it's their own blood, and they're just cutting themselves up. And then eventually they go off and they die. And just like that, the Eskimos have protected their tribe, because they desensitized this wolf and its major aggression towards blood, and just like this ravenous, I want to take this out. And that's what pornography is. Pornography is that secret thing that you hide with in a closet that you think for 5 minutes or however long it's going to stay in there. It's not. It's following you through every single turn, nook and cranny that you might be in. And it affects so many other aspects of life too. Not just your relationship dynamics. It messes up with, your goals, your ambitions. There's a lot of things in life that it can mess up with, not just relationships. The Bible also talks about how, I think it's in Corinthians, if the devil's, at your door, be ready to meet him, be ready to fight. But then in Ephesians, it talks about sexual immorality. And if you're in front of sexual immorality, flee.
Go run.
You're
run.
No match. You're no match. You're no match. And it's so telling of just how powerful sexual immorality is and how damaging it is. Because it may not necessarily be just a blunt force. It's going to be something that over time you're just going to become more and more desensitized to God, to the Holy Spirit, and that's the direction that it's always going to push you towards.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing, because porn, no matter where it comes from, it's always like, oh, when you,
it's so raw.
Oh, yeah.
It's
and it's hard to admit.
It is.
It's really hard to admit because it is so shameful. Even people that don't maybe live for God, they have a hard time admitting it. Not all, but some, because it's shameful. But it does almost ruin the senses of the way you look at women and respect women and just our society, just how women even talk about themselves just in songs and stuff. It's just we have degraded women so much that it's like the norm. Like that's how they view getting attention. And hopefully with us admitting that it's nasty, admitting that it's a problem, confessing that it's a sin, and exposing what it really does, who knows, maybe we'll see a great revival of that stronghold. That, it's like one of those high towers in the Old Testament where it talks about kings would do right in God's eyes, but there would be these high towers that they left. They would tear down a lot of altars that were low, that were, but there was always, or a lot of times there was high tower. It would specifically say they would do right in God's eyes, but there would be these high towers that they didn't tear down. And porn is one of those things that the country, the world, just kind of, they focus on these things. Hey, we got to do better here, but that just constantly stays there. Yeah. And man, I would just love for God, just people to start standing up and tearing that stronghold down, because it's.
Yeah. What was the number we heard? It's $178 billion industry. $178 billion.
That's more than NBA, NFL, and MLB combined.
Yeah.
Is how much this is making. And now women are growing up with the OnlyFans, which is your own personal production of whatever you want to produce.
Yeah.
And it's being sold, and it's an easy money, right? Because you're not actually having to go do anything. And so women are like, this is how I support myself. This is how I can, like, young women are like, this is the route I want to go. And I just want, that you are taking away from so much of your life that you can't even see.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the sad thing, is that when the realization hits, there's so much scars and pain. Yes. But well, guys, I want to thank you for being brave enough to talk about knowing that it's going to be aired, and I know that it's the way that I tell people. It's easy to confess something or talk about something that's shameful when it's part of the old man. When you've laid it down and that part of you has died, and it becomes like, maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable, and it's not the greatest thing that I'd want to talk about, but it's necessary. And the reason I can talk about it is because that's no longer me. God has delivered me. And I think that it's valuable for you guys to show people that, hey, once that addiction is broken, that you don't have, the shame can be there of who it latched onto, who you used to be, but you don't have to carry it around. Right. It's not who you are anymore. Right? It's not part of who you are now.
Yeah. And that's what we want out of, engaging in this, and you giving a platform for us to talk about it, is to reach more people that were like me, that were hiding with that sin. And there's a lot of weight that comes with that, and a lot of shame, and a lot of potential embarrassment that can come along with it, that the world wants you to be locked up with and stay there, and the devil wants you to stay there, because then you also have the comfort of, well, it's your secret, and then you can still get the joy of whatever pleasure that's bringing you. And that's such a lie. you have so much more joy and pleasure in admitting that that's no longer a part of you, and you're going in the opposite direction, and hopefully that can lead to you pulling a few people with you along the way. And that's truly what I told her. I said, I hope that someone can listen to this and, have the courage to admit, and it may not even necessarily be pornography, but I think that pornography is something that is so sensitive and such a hard topic to talk about in today's world, especially in the church too. Even being a pastor, talking about that in front of a congregation, it's probably challenging. You know?
And so I know for a fact that it'll speak to people because you grew up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
You're both grandparents pastors. Your mom and dad's involved in the church. All your cousins, everybody that I know you're related to is in the church.
Yeah.
And so there's a heavy weight of talking about it because it's like, you shouldn't have done that. You grew up in the church. You're a church kid, and you're going to bring shame on your family and all that kind of stuff, all that weight. But the fact that you talked about it, and there probably will be, if let's just say a pastor was struggling with it and he admitted it, there will be people lash out to him. Those people that are lashing out, probably like you were, they're probably addicted to it. And how dare a pastor? Well, are you watching porn? Are you addicted? Are you doing things? And that's what I try to tell people. It's like, we are all idiots. Oh. We all are. We are. The Bible says at our very best, when we really feel like we're killing it, we're filthy rags.
Yep.
We are nothing special. Outside of God, we're a mess. We have sin, struggle. We've done people wrong. We've done wrong. I mean, there's no sense of trying to pretend that we're something we're not. Because if you try to pretend, you're an imposter.
Yeah.
You're living a lie anyway.
Yep.
And this whole, these podcasts and stuff, I think it shows people like there's always going to be fear of admitting wrong. Drink your water. Right? Like there's that risk, that unknown risk. Like if I admit this, if I admit this is a struggle, if I've been doing this, I don't know what the risks are. But if I don't, the risk is that I'll lose myself.
Right.
That I will spend my life living a lie. And for me, I would rather face the risk than live a lie.
Yeah.
Because I've lived to where I didn't even know who I was. That I didn't know what I enjoyed. I was just so caught up in just whatever I thought the moment needed to be, instead of being like my roots down deep and being like, this is not going to sway me.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve God. I'm going to be who I am. I heard this quote and it said, good guys and nice guys are not the same. Because a good guy, when his morals are tested, cannot be nice. Right? Like if we're hanging out and you want to do something that I don't partake in, God has convicted me. I'd be like, dude, I don't care if this hurts your feelings, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. That's not right. And in that moment, a good guy with the morals and standing for God, we're not always supposed to be like, oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Man, if it's a conviction of mine and it's going to pull me away from God, it just ain't right. I ain't doing it.
Right.
If you want to do it, it's on you, but I'm calling it wrong. For me, it's wrong, and I'm not going to do it. And I think that that's what you guys are doing. You guys are saying this was not wrong. This was not right. This was destroying our marriage. We wanted to honor God. And you've seen the evidence of it. When you let it down, you guys, I've seen a huge change in you guys. I just linger around at church and talking, you getting involved. Just your confidence in the Lord, your relationship with each other. And now, like you said, what Satan meant to destroy you guys, to hold you back, to keep you separated, to keep you not in that intimacy. Now you're going to help others to break that cycle and to learn what true marriage can be like. Yep. To help them overcome. So, guys, I want to thank you for coming and speaking on such a tough topic, but I know for a fact it's going to help encourage people.
Yeah.
To quit living a lie, and to expose the sin and to get past it. to give it over to God. So, guys, if you've been watching and this is something that maybe you've been struggling with, and maybe you found the shame and the embarrassment or just worried about the consequences of what if I am to admit that I have a problem with porn. Maybe you're married and your wife doesn't know, or maybe you are the wife and you're addicted to porn and you're wondering, what are they going to think? Just know that if you continue in that lie, that's exactly what your life is. It's just a lie. It's not who you truly are meant to be, what God has planned for you. And so I just pray that you find encouragement. It's a huge step for them to come and be on camera and admit the struggles that they had. But they were willing to do it because they know the greatness of laying aside those struggles and those weights to what God has brought their marriage and what God has done, the healing and bringing them together and the people that they are now, thriving and serving the Lord and not distracted or weighed down by porn in their life. So we thank you for watching. Hope it encourages, and tune in for the next episode. On our next episode, we're going to be talking to a good friend of mine, Colin Masterson. He grew up in an area to where he didn't even know about God. He was surrounded with people that didn't go to church, never mentioned God. And it was just not even something that was even an option that he knew of until one day he did find God, transformed his life, and he's on that journey now, getting closer to God. I'm excited for you to hear his story. And as always, remember, the quickest way to become an idiot is to surround yourself with idiots, and you'll quickly become one. See you in the next one.